Cause yeah, sometimes we'll feel alone. In a second, I'll be right there.
Look at the fit. It's giving me like, you know, contemporary bride. So what's up, guys? I am off to ASDA now. Now ASDA is where I would typically get my groceries, so my bread, my milk, my eggs. But today's challenge is one that is really interesting and exciting. I'm going to be getting all of my sewing supplies from ASDA, so excluding like sewing machine and irons, but like all of the fabrics, the trims, threads, everything I'll need. The plan is to get it all from ASDA and try and create a piece. But I'm going to take you guys along with me, vlog the whole process, see what I find, share the sewing patterns if I make any, and share the final reveal towards the end of this video. Why am I so excited? Somebody tell me, why am I so excited? It's so nice and sunny today. We're just walking to the store. It's not too far from the house, so this is a nice walk for me and the George, who I had to beg. I was begging, bribing, just to get him to come out with me. Well, isn't it worth it now? Huh? Huh?
It's good.
So we're just going to see what we'll find in the store. And yeah, wish me luck. Such nice weather. Wow, look at how blue the sky is. I think I might find some luck in kitchenware. Let's see. Oh, that's like paper. I want actual material. Oh, here we go. What are those? Is it interesting? Oh, I think we might have found something. Why are there so many? I just want one. It's like 4 in one pack. And it's $1.50.
It was too quick.
Okay, so I'm back home now. This is all I could find. I honestly tried to look. They didn't have any threads or buttons or anything I could use for fastening, but I got this really beautiful duvet set for a single bed that comes with one cover and one pillowcase. I love this like ruching pattern that it has on the surface. I also got this second set. I swapped it over for the butterfly one that I got earlier on. This one has like leaves and flowers, and I thought that would look really nice for a sundress. I also got a new scissors and some super glue. I think I'm just going to dig into my own sewing supply and grab a white thread and a white zip. I'll try and make it work with those 2 extra things. Besides that, that is all I got, people. Now the dress design is actually one of the designs from my upcoming collection, which has a fitted skirt, a high empire waistline, and a sort of rounded gathered bodice that has a ribbon on the back that allows you to adjust the neckline of the dress. So it's day 2 at this point. I have my bed sheet here. I have decided to go with just the white one because I want to aim for something really classy and possibly bridal. So I'm just going to take off the packaging. I was thinking about giving this thing a wash. I don't know why I didn't completely convince myself to like wash it before using it. So it's a really fine cotton, so I think I might need to cut 2 layers for the skirt. So nice and covered down there. It comes wrapped in this like small bag. And in typical bedsheet manner, it's like This, I don't know if you guys can see the texture that it has. It has this really nice ruched design all over the pattern. It's for a single bed, so it's not a lot of fabric. I think it's about 2 meters of fabric, but we'll make it work and we move. You will need the following measurement if you're going to be creating this design. You need to just measure around your bust for reference. You need to measure your under bust because that's where the skirt would start from. So it's like an empire, see umpire or empire waistline, I think that's what it's called. You would need to measure around your waist. You need to measure the distance from your waist to your hip. Measure around your hips because it's going to be nice and fitted from the waist till around the hip area, and then decide on how long you want the skirt to be. I think I'm going to do something that is just like an ankle grazer so I can wear it long. And then you need to measure the distance from your shoulder to your under bust to determine the length of the blouse, because the blouse is going to be like nice and poofy around the shoulder, gathered under the bust into the skirt, and then a side zip. Since I didn't find a zip in the store, I just grabbed a normal dress zip. Thankfully, I already had a white one in stock. This one, it was about 12 inches. And I just hope that would be enough to go on the side of the dress. I just really hope. Else I might have to put it on the back. Ooh, I don't know. I think on the back. I'll put the zip on the back. Yeah, let's do that. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is to unpick the duvet cover. I'm just separating the layer that has the texture from the plain cotton underneath, which I know is going to become my lining. After unpicking them, I gave the pieces a nice press to relax all of the wrinkling that it had from the packaging, and then you have your material ready to work. For the sewing pattern, it is essentially a high-waisted skirt. I have a separate tutorial where I shared how to make a basic skirt, and you need to just rework that to your taste or your preference. However, I removed the waist dart from my skirt piece, and it ended up being a nice and snug fit around the waist, the hip, and it's a straight cut from the hip down to the hem. I'm going to share all the dimensions in the description box down below, because the difference between the front and the back of the skirt is the front is raised on the center front by 2.5 inches, and then the center back of the back of the skirt is dipped in by 4 inches. Now for the top piece, the pattern piece measures 29 by 16, so it's essentially like a big rectangle that you are going to gather into the waistline of the skirt. And then you need a pattern piece for the back ribbon, which measures roughly 35 by 1.5 inches. Now I just went ahead to cut out all of the panels I needed for my dress, my front, my back, as well as the pieces for the top and the ribbons. I ended up using about 2 meters of fabric. Now if you want your skirt to be longer, you have the opportunity to change that. If you want it to be shorter, you can also sort of change it around to suit your preference. Okay, so I've cut out all the pieces I need. I have my main dress here, which are these pieces. I've cut the front and the back. I also cut the lining using the same pattern. I just made the lining shorter by about, I'll say about 1.5 inches. That's the main difference between the lining front and back of the dress and the main dress. And then I cut another pair that is, and that one I'm going to be using for the back to tie up the back of the dress. The other thing that I ended up cutting was, I got this piece. So this is what I'm going to be putting on this side and this side of the dress to make the top and like a small sleeve there. I cut a pair of this in the main material and another pair in the lining. So now that we have all of our pieces ready, I'm going to start sewing. I'll start with this one. I think I'll have to start with this top half and just like figure everything out before I move on to the skirt of the dress. The first thing I'm going to be sewing is the top half of the dress. Now I've put right sides together of the textured fabric with the lining, and I'm going to be sewing up the sides for both sides. So you need one piece or one pair for the left and one pair for the right shoulder. So I stitched that, turned it inside out and gave it a nice press, and this is what it looks like. It literally looks like a big pillowcase. But I'm going to be sewing the shorter ends with the loosest stitch on my machine to help me create the gathers for this piece. And I'm just going in here to pull the threads to create the gathers. The piece should be gathered into a dimension of 8" because that's like what half of the front is or half of the back is. So I just like double checked that as I was like pulling the thread along the way. Now this is what it's looking like so far, and I'm not mad at all. So once you've done this for the left and the right shoulder piece, you can go ahead and work on the skirt. Now I've put right sides together of the front and the back pieces. I've pinned them along the sides, and I'm going to be sewing up both side seams. I'm going to be doing this for the main outer shell of the dress and for the lining as well. After stitching it on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, I went ahead to press all of the seams for the main dress piece as well as for the lining. So once that is all done, this is what the skirt is looking like. After pressing it, it should start to come together slowly. So I'm going to be grabbing those shoulder pieces that we gathered earlier on, and I'm going to be attaching them to the skirt along the waistline. So you would need to put one side on the front edge like this, so starting from center front to the side seam, and I'm putting right sides together. So right side of the shoulder piece to the right side of the dress, and then the other side you fold it in such a way that the right side of the shoulder piece sits into that back waistline. So I did this for my left and my right hand side, and I'm going to be sandwiching these shoulder pieces in between the lining and the main skirt piece. So once that is all pinned in place like I like to work, I'm going to essentially sew with one straight stitch, joining the top to the bottom of the dress. Now this is what it's looking like. I actually went back in to trim down the seam allowance on that waistline because I don't want it to be too bulky there. So once that is all done, the next thing I'm doing here is I'm just pinning together the center back seam of the skirt like so, and I'm going to be sewing up until the point that I know I need to have enough allowance for my zip. My zip was about 12 inches, so I left about that much open on the top part of the skirt, and I'm just going in here to pin the zip into the open end of that center back. So once I've pinned the left and the right hand side of the zip tape to the open end of the skirt, I'm essentially going to be sewing my zip into the back of the skirt. And I just opted for a simple dress zip. You have the option of using an invisible zip or using a more decorative zip if you want to. I just wanted something nice and clean, hence why I just reached for a simple white dress zip. And I'm just sewing the side of the zip into the side of the skirt using my narrow zip footer. And then once I'm done doing that, I'm going to be using the lining to finish off the edge of the zip. I'm going to fold the lining over in this direction and fold this in such a way that I'm going to be stitching the lining, the zip tape, and the main skirts on the inside of the garment. I will do this for the left and for the right hand side. So when I turn this inside out, the zip edge and that center back edge is tucked inside of the garment. So once I'm done doing it for this side, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side of the skirt, and this is what it should look like. Now you would have the bottom end of the lining still open. You need to go back in and stitch that close. From the point where the zip stops, you will need to sew it down to the hemline, so you have a completely closed side on that center back edge, and it should look like this. Next up, I'm going to be going in to join the hemline of the main dress to the lining, and what I did was I turned the main dress inside out and I matched the hemlines, so center front to center front, center back to center back, and I marked about a 4 to 5 inch opening that I would need to have open to turn the piece inside out again. So I'm just going in here to sew both linings in place on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, and after stitching both of them together, I'm essentially going to turn the dress inside out so it reveals the right side of the garment. Now because we cut the lining shorter, it automatically pulls the hemline up like this, and that opening I'm going to be going back in to stitch on a very slim edge stitch to close it up. You can also do this by hand tacking if you don't want to sew it like I'm doing here. Now the last thing we will need to do is to attach the ribbon that's it on the back of the dress, and I'm going to be folding right sides together like so, and I'm going to sew it and turn it inside out and give it a nice press so it looks like this. You need to do this for both ribbons, for the left and for the right hand side. And I'm just going in here to pin the ribbon to the back neckline. It sits roughly 2 inches from the shoulder point or from the shoulder fold of the dress, and I'm pinning in the second one like so, and I'm going to be taking this to my machine to stitch the ribbon into the back neckline. So I stitched it in such a way that I essentially had like a square, and this will keep the ribbon securely over time. This is the final outcome. Now, this is one of those dresses that I honestly think turned out a lot better than I anticipated, because look at the fit. It's giving me like, you know, contemporary bride, registry wedding vibes, or possibly like bridesmaids, you know, really classy bridesmaids. It was very straightforward to make, and the bed sheet texture and weight just worked so well. So well with the style of the dress. I really love the outcome, and the sample turned out so well, and I can't wait for you guys to see the final piece that would be part of my new Orowa collection. It's available to pre-order on the 23rd of April. I think it will be the Friday after this video goes live, so feel free to check it out and let me know your thoughts. But I love this dress. Oh, it's so nice. If you guys enjoyed this video, or if you have any other suggestions, make sure to share it in the comment section. And with that being said, cue the show off montage, because I have to do a show off montage for this piece. Sorry, it's just so nice.
If you ever feel alone, 'cause yeah, sometimes we'll feel alone. In a second, I'll be right there. Turn around, let it rain. Turn around and let it rain on me. Don't you be afraid. Just follow me. You don't need no space. Just follow me. Like a mirror, you reflect me. Like a Friday night on the weekend, I feel blessed and free. I just don't want this moment to end. But now you say you gotta go. Baby, why you gotta go? Like a mirror, you reflect me. I just don't want this moment to end.